session, and we have with us the entire team. My team consists of the Director Training with Mr. Mehrotra, Director Academic Mr. Muralidharan, Ms. Rabita, who is coordinating, and she will carry this forward. Mr. Rabita, you can start.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks. Respected Deputy CEO, Directors, IABF, faculty members, PTC heads, and AMP participants, we are pleased to inform you that CEO IABF Das sir and guest speaker Sen Gupta sir, MD and CEO Indian Overseas Bank have joined us. Respected sirs, I am Ravita Vadva, Deputy Director IABF and AMP Coordinator of the Year. So we welcome you to the program Leader Speak series of AMP 9th batch. In audience, we have Deputy CEO Dr. Galante, Directors, Training, Mehrotra sir, Dr. Muralidharan, Francis sir, PTC heads from Delhi, Chennai, Calcutta, and esteemed faculty members from IABF. A brief introduction of the guest speaker. Sen Gupta sir assumed charge as Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer in Indian Overseas Bank as on 24 July 2020. Sir is a career banker. He joined SBI as a probationary officer in February 1987. Prior to his elevation to the post of Deputy Managing Director in SBI, he was a Chief General Manager of SBI Calcutta Circle. Prior to this, Sir was General Manager and SBI Mid-Corporate Regional Office, Pune. As DMD and Chief Credit Officer of SBI, he was responsible in positioning the bank's credit portfolio on a firm sustainable footing, with standards matching global best practices. During his more than 3 decades of experience with SBI, he has served in various capacities in different geographies and has hands-on experience both in retail banking and corporate banking. Sir, our AMP batch consists of 60 people. They are people from across the country, across the banks, financial institutions, organizations like SBI, Bank of India, Bank of Baroda, Union Bank of India, IDBI Bank, HDFC Bank, Yes Bank, Mahindra Finance, CCIL. They are mostly from the senior management cadre. Now I would request CEO IABF to please give welcome address.
Yeah, before that, Ravita, tell something about your AMP program itself.
Okay, sir.
When it started, how long? Yeah, little bit of a glimpse of that.
Okay. Sir, this is the 9th batch we are running into. The program is an 8 months duration program and we started in August 2020. So program is expected to end by March or 2021 or April. So it is a hybrid program this year. For the first time, we went into the virtual platform because of the COVID situation. We use this opportunity to launch the program in the online mode. It's a hybrid mode. Rather, we have online sessions which we do every Saturday, Sunday, and we have an immersion program planned at Bombay during this year end, and we have a strategic tie-up with IIM Calcutta where we would be taking people there on the campus. People would be staying there for 5 days, and there would be a module on strategic management and organizational behavior. So this AMP program is a very vast course covering almost all the topics in the banking industry. It has 16 modules which cover the banking products, the innovation, how the banking industry is doing, the credit portfolio, how it is managed, credit monitoring, and we have some business ethics also, business analytics, treasury management, risk management. So in all 16 modules, we call faculty inside, in-house, as well as from the industry to address the participants. Every Saturday, Sunday, so we have 6-hour sessions on the online platform.
Yeah, good. So, yeah, all the participants present for the AMP, my colleagues from IABF and our esteemed guest today, Sri Parthapratim Sen Gupta. I welcome you to this program. The IABF is created for the development of human resources of the banks. It is by the banks and for the banks. So this is one of the innovative programs where we have tried to tighten the loose ends at the mid-management level. So going forward, these people may take up the higher positions, and it has already happened also. The earlier batches, the people who have come out successfully from this AMP program has managed higher positions. And for the participants, this time we chose the MD and CEO of the IOB, Mr. Parthapratim Sengupta, who was a career banker, as rightly said, but a banker with a difference. If you see the banking, how it has changed over a period of time, how the retail banking has changed, how the technology has changed over a period of time, and how the customer behavior has changed. Perhaps he is one of the few bankers who has seen all. As the CGM of Kolkata Circle, he saw the turnaround of the circle, and he took a special initiative to train our staff, the clerical staff, the frontline staff, so that the delivery can be better at the branch level, which in fact turned the Calcutta Circle to one of the best circles as far as the customer services are concerned. And as the CCO of the largest bank, he is no stranger to the difficulties which the bankers face as far as the credit risk is concerned. So all of you must acknowledge that nowadays the credit risk has come out as the most prolific risk in the banking sector. So operational risk, if you talk of, there are issues with the operational risk. But the most important thing at present, which now encounters all of us, is the credit risk. After pandemic, you will have more of this. Once the moratorium goes out, what will happen to the banking industry? What will be the NPL level? How the banks will react to the increased NPL level? What will be the capital adequacy ratio? How the functioning of the banks itself will get affected because of this non-payment or the moratorium? All these things. So a practical banker who has seen all this at different roles, perhaps is the best person who can address you, who can answer all your queries. So I welcome you, Sri Partha, and I thank you on behalf of all the participants as well as the IIBF for accepting our invitation. It will be an enriching experience for all the participants. So the floor is open, I think, for the MD and CEO IOB.
Okay. Good afternoon. And first of all, I must thank Sri Vishakatan Das and the entire team of IIBF for giving me this opportunity to interact with you all. It has been a tremendous journey in SBI, not only for me, but equally for your CEO, Sri Vishakatan Das. We have really witnessed a lot of changes. But I had the privilege, I would say, to work in an institution, or both of us, we had the privilege to work in an institution which had a lot of human talents, and the resource pool was quite strong. And so whatever the vicissitudes of changes, whatever was required, we could actually adapt very quickly to the need of the hour. But now I have both of us are in a different organization, but I am continuing with the banking environment in the, I would say, in the hardcore banking environment, and now posted in Indian Overseas Bank, which is, I would say, a bank where this assignment would probably be very challenging in my career, because this is a bank which, for whatever reasons, was making losses for continuous 18 quarters and just started making profit from March quarter. So we posted a profit in March quarter, we posted a profit in June quarter. We may post something, I don't know, the audit is going on. But now when we were just looking forward, this COVID came. And so whatever the plans, the strategies that we have made are definitely going to be impacted, and in many cases may be adversely affected by this COVID. So the topic is, I would say, is very, very relevant today. The challenges of maintaining growth and profitability of the banks in this COVID, in post-COVID era. I don't know when the post-COVID era will come, because till now the vaccine is just getting deferred. We heard that it would be ready by December. Initially, someone said that probably on 15th August the vaccines would be announced, but anyway, that news it was said that it was not true for that year. Now they said that December has come. Now it is said July. So we don't know when will really the post-COVID era will start. But one thing we know, that we have to live with COVID. That is absolutely the thing is there, that we have to live with COVID. So let COVID be there and let economic growth be there. So to just start with you, I just request all the participants. I've seen the design of the program. The question answer session is kept at the end, and the first 30 minutes is just for me to deliver some speech. But I don't want that you should all sleep after taking lunch at your home. I think of all, if you're at in your just logged in from your home, all that is. So my only request is that be interactive right from now. So let us have an interactive session. And let me tell you, I am not an economist. So I will not give you any statistics, because I myself also sometimes fail to understand the empirical formulas. So I think those need to be deliberated by the economists at the very top end. So we are career bankers, all of you, you all who are the participants, and I am also a career banker. We are a very practical banker. We just know 2 + 2 = 4. I am not very much interested in the triple integration of a calculus for that year and come out or derive some formula for that year. Let us just share our experience and go with it for that year. Now, today the topic is that credit growth, one part. The second part is the profitability. And again, I'm telling you, I will make a little change, that instead of a post-COVID, because we don't know when will the post-COVID will come. Let us come with the existing COVID situation for that year. How can we ensure growth on one hand, and how can we ensure profitability? So the first thing is that, just from your experience, can you say whether credit growth is related to the economic growth? Any one of you for that year?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So you said that credit growth is related to the economic growth for that year.
Yes, sir.
I will just give a different view. I'm not that it is correct. Once the economic growth takes place, okay, multiple avenues are available to the borrower, or I would say to any investor, to any company, to get funds. Isn't it right?
Yes, sir.
Look at the, I would say, the pre-reform areas during, say, 88, 87, 89 for that year. Banking was the only, I would say, source of supply of money for the running of the business. So credit from banks and credit from unorganized sectors, these were the two sources. Then gradually, when the economic growth took place, the capital market opened up. Then came the various instruments in the capital market for that matter, for that, and then again the mutual funds came, who were also a, I would say, supplier of money or supplier of credit to the investors or to the various companies. So when the, and if you look from your practical experience, I can say from my practical experience, we were handling one account in Kolkata, which is very famous. Everyone knows it, was ITC Limited. Okay. ITC, I still remember during that time for that year, it had a huge credit exposure from State Bank of India till 1992, 91, 92 for that year. And then when the economic growth was taking place, the economy was made free for that year, we found that the credit exposure from our bank or from State Bank or for the entire banking sector was actually declining. And more the economy grew, our balances, credit balances became, or our, rather I would say, our loan exposure turned out to be a credit balance in the ledger. Have you experienced this? That good companies borrow less when economic growth takes place. Is it,
Yes.
do you, or anyone having a different
Correct, sir.
view on this? So the question is that, if the,
No.
yeah, please. Someone was just trying to make a comment.
Sir, when the economy is good, so a company would look for a cheaper source of finance. So maybe a certificate, a commercial paper or something like that.
Right. So economic growth means the market also opens up. There are various avenues, various opportunities in the market. Okay. It does not only depend on bank credit.
But sir, I have one query here, sir.
Yeah,
But
please.
how many such a companies, sir? Because IT is a big company, and maybe Reliance and some big companies are maybe able to do like that. But
I
India is
agree. Correct.
vast.
Whatever you said is correct. That is where I am coming to the point. The first thing is that it is not that it is a very directly proportional equation that credit if the credit, economy grows, the credit growth will take place for all companies. Because there are many companies actually who are just looking for alternate avenues at low cost from the market, and they meet their credit needs through those sources rather than going from bank credit. This is number one. But then again, rightly you have pointed out, I think Mr. Mehta probably has pointed out for that here, that whatever you have pointed out, that it is not that all companies will have this opportunity or will have the capacity to enter into the alternate markets, isn't it?
Yes,
It
sir.
is
Yes,
not for all the companies. And when economic growth takes place, lot of new companies emerge, isn't it?
yes.
Yeah. So when this lot many new companies emerge for the whenever the economic growth takes place, then obviously the source for funding their requirements, for their working capital requirements, or for their project finance requirements, definitely the first source comes to the bank. Okay. So there only, it may be that very large corporates or very good rated corporates, very well rated corporates may not ask for bank credit. But since the economy is growing, our credit growth grows because there is a demand from the new emerging companies or new emerging, I would say nowadays we call it startups, we call new ventures, whatever is there, isn't it? So
Yes,
that's why the credit growth grows for that year. And if you look into the experience, the credit growth is almost related or somewhat related to the GDP growth of the country. Okay. And it is I would say a thumb rule, a multiple of 4 to 5 times, generally it goes. So initially when you look in the pre-reform areas, almost the economy was growing at 4%, GDP was growing at around 4%. The credit growth was around 17%. Okay. Then the economy, especially when the new regime came, when it was globalization and liberalization took place and the economy opened up for that year, there was a almost 9 to 10% GDP growth rate. We have all witnessed that phase, 2011 to 14. Okay. So 2011 to 14, we have all witnessed that phase. But during that time, the credit also grew almost 28 to 30%, despite many alternate avenues were available. In the first phase, no alternate avenues were available, isn't it? In the first phase, the capital market was not much developed. There was no mutual funds. So people have to depend only on bank credit. In the second phase, when mutual funds were there, when the capital markets were also, I would say, well established, then also we found that there is a huge growth in credit, isn't it? Have you witnessed that? In the road sector, in the power sector, in the steel sector, in the coal sector, I think all our banks were there from various banks. All of us have lent, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
We have all lent in those sectors for that year. But eventually, then again, what is our experience in again for that year. That one is that if there is a GDP growth, definitely there will be a credit growth, no doubt on it. And now there is a growth of more than say 3 times, 4 times than, or 3 times at least, even when the multiple resources are available, when the multiple opportunities are available. Now in the second phase, what we have witnessed, what the sanctions, what we have made, or the loans we have made during 2010 to say 2014, or 2008 to say 2014, what have we witnessed in general in those accounts? Just tell from your experience in the
Yes, most of them become, I think, problematic, sir.
not problematic NPS.
NPS, yes, sir. Yes.
Simply to tell it that many of those accounts have become NPS. So the question is that when the economy was growing, we supported, then why these accounts, so many accounts, become NPS? Is it only due to our appraisal failure?
No, sir. No.
It is not only due to our appraisal failure, but what could be a likely reason of our, there is one definitely, two aspects of definitely, I would not say appraisal failure, but definitely I would say we could have been more circumspective while doing our appraisal. What is that?
Sir, one is the diversion
Sir,
of funds, misuse of funds.
No. Sir, at that time, assessments techniques was not too much available. Right decisions, that was not at the time review of the advances was techniques not there. That is the reasons behind it.
Or, sir, my point is maybe more focus on industry-wise, more invested industry-wise, and more exposure to industry-wise, without any collaterals, proper, because huge companies, whose exposures we can't insist 100% securities, and might be more focus, more exposure in the particular segments.
Right. So yeah. So that is one reason. The other, and any other from the experiences, why there are so many NPS?
Sir, hello, sir.
Yeah.
Many accounts were restructured also, sir.
Restructured only because of becoming NPS, no? Because they were stressed. I'm just asking that.
Sir, this is Murali Krishna, sir. This is Murali Krishna, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, there are two major reasons: external reasons and internal reasons.
Absolutely.
One is external reasons is because there is a power sector, a road sector, and all these infrastructure areas. There is a government side. There is no such a decision-making support because there is no environmental clearance. There is no coal linkages for the power sector. There is no road land availability for the road projects. These are all the structural decisions which are not happened from the government side. Sir,
I fully agree. Whatever you have said is absolutely correct.
This is one aspect. This is sir. This is external aspect. One is aspect, sir. My view. This is my view. And another side, and there is a lot of government has given a push because of our planning stage of 5-year planning phase. They want to grow multiple folds, so that they want a higher targets. They want to reach the targets. That is the government aim. So
Right.
again, internal. When we come to the internal, we have a human resource problem. We do not have the much expertise in those areas. So that is one. That is also one of the reason. And we have that much capacity to absorb the shocks. That much if risk management policies are not also taken place in those days.
Absolutely.
So because of these are the main two reasons that we are facing, the banks are facing the difficulties, sir.
I 100% agree with you.
Sir.
I 100% agree with you. Whatever you have actually addressed the issue in I would say in the absolutely right way. That something was external where we did not have any control.
Sir, my experience is that bankers did not have the experience of this infrastructure funding.
Absolutely correct. But it is not that we did not have the experience of, maybe that we commercial banks may not be having the
Commercial banks only, sir, commercial.
infrastructure funding, but there were institutions like IDBI. IDBI, you see that today they have failed. Their condition is so miserable because of these corporate credits only, and they were experts in this line. It is not that they did not have experience. Even ICICI also, they had quite a lot of experience. Initially, if you remember that when we used to do term loans, these term lending institutions used to do the appraisals, and we were just funding the working capital. We did not have that much of expertise in the term loans for that year. So
Sir, moreover, moreover, and I'm sorry, we bankers have given an upliftment for the first generation entrepreneurs. Those does not have that much experience to deal the crores of rupees projects.
fully agree. Fully
That is
agree.
also the one reason. Sir.
I term this point that we wanted to make all the steel traders owner of steel plants and all the coal traders owners of power plants.
Sir,
That is our internal mistake. I would say whatever you have said, the external mistakes are absolutely correct. Internal mistakes also, I agree with you. The first mistake we did is that we did not judge the promoter. Trading and industrialist, a trader, there is a huge difference between a trader and an industrialist in the mindset. And the mindset is that the trader wants a quick return of his money, and the industrialist waits and sees that yes, whatever he has invested, the IRR, it comes over a period of time. So if suddenly a trader is going to become an industrialist, and we all banks just supported it, he was just a coal trader and he is now setting up a power plant, and we went with yes, he was just a steel trader and now he's setting up a steel manufacturing plant, and we went with yes. Now in industries, ventures, in any industrial ventures, their hiccups are bound to happen. And any capital intensive industry, not just plug and play, that today I just take up the proposal or project and tomorrow I will get the returns. And when these traders did find that the returns are not coming, when they found that, okay, that whatever the money I have investment is not giving me returns, the diversification or the siphoning of funds took place. So that was an initial mistake, I would say, we have done.
One more reason can I tell, sir? Even banks are ignored a retail credit and more focus on wholesale.
Absolutely correct, because at that time the concept of retail credit was only limited to some of the banks like HDFC and others. We are more, we had huge liquidity. We wanted to deploy the funds, so we went with the investment decisions. And I can tell you again from my practical banker's experience, when I was just sitting with all the banks in various JLFs, JLM meetings and all CDRs or any other such SDRs, all these meetings, when I used to say very unique, such type of, I would say, introspections were coming out at the hindsight. And when I just asked the question that why, if you are aware of this, why didn't you raise this at the time of appraisal? You know, the answer was, since State Bank is there in the consortium, we have just done it. In fact, that was really the mindset.
Yes, sir.
Correct, sir. 100%. Absolutely, your point is right, sir.
Always, yeah, customer.
So
State Bank of customer is a good customer.
Even though some of the smaller banks also had the appraisal skill, and they could find out that yes, these are the potential risks. Despite that, instead of highlighting that, we all went.
Even today, that rule is prevailing across the banking sector, sir. Even State Bank of India is the consortium leader. We can follow simply.
This is also
the problem, sir.
Yeah, this is also the mindset in my bank also, where I am now heading the bank. But I am telling you all, and I am telling my people also, please see that that is where the risk culture comes. Each one of us has a different risk-taking ability. Each one of us has a different risk-taking ability. And State Bank of India,
yes, sir, that's
by virtue of its reserves, by virtue of its customer base, by virtue of the government support, and being a banker to the government for so many years, their risk-taking capability is much, much higher than many of the other commercial banks. So the risk that is taken by State of Bank of India, the other banks just cannot blindly follow. You have to look on your own strengths, and then only you have to decide that whether I should go for this project or not. And even if I go, to what extent shall I go? Okay, so that is a major decision. Okay, so this is I would say a very good introspection. So we are now coming up with one I would say we can conclude for that year that definitely when there is economic growth, there is a credit growth. Okay. Now what happens when there is an economic contradiction? Now tell me. This COVID situation, everyone has projected that there will be an economic contraction. There will be an economic contraction during this COVID, and it is supposed that it is quite around 20%. It is expected this financial year. Next year, a little bit growth is expected, but let us see what is happening for that year. So what will happen to the credit in this when the economy is degrowing, when the GDP is degrowing? Any idea?
Sir, my opinion is, sir, I'm Ashok. My opinion is, sir, even though certain few areas are affected a lot now, particularly tourism and other related areas, but certain areas also a lot of potential, sir, for example, hospitals and pharmaceuticals.
There is some here. I'm just coming. Just 1 minute. 1 minute. I'm just coming. Just put it in that mode. Please. Yeah. Please tell me.
Even though some of the industries are, some of the sectors are affected, like tourism and other hotel industry, tourism, but most of the are recovering. And particularly, we also get other opportunities. What I'm feeling is, for example, hospitals and pharmaceuticals and hardware, computer hardware, and so many other industries are improving. And there we can explore. What I'm feeling is,
I'm
sir.
talking
So
about
it's
the
not-
opportunities. I'm just asking a simple question. When the economy is contracting, then what is expected in respect of credit growth?
Sir, credit growth will be less, and there will be more of monitoring on the accounts, because we don't know what will be the outcome because of the COVID, how the business have suffered, or what are the business they have done in the COVID times.
Sir, credit growth will be slow definitely, sir, because there is no new units are coming during the COVID period.
Exactly. You see, there will be definitely two impacts.
Sir, up to some extent,
Yes.
if there is contraction in economy, definitely credit growth will be slower. But if that credit contraction in economy goes deeper and down, then credit growth will be higher. Because in manufacturing segment, if it goes beyond certain point, goes down beyond certain point, then manufacturing unit will not have fund to maintain its day-to-day operation. So, and on the contrary, in term where it's in case of a trading firm, I think lesser the volume, then lesser the credit requirement for that firm.
Right, absolutely right. So the question now, the first thing is that when the economy there is a contraction in the economy, and economy is slowing down, the first thing, obviously there are some cascading effects. The first effect is that people become more apprehensive and they tend to save more rather than to spend more, because when the economy is growing, the first thing that will happen, there will be job losses. There will be closure of factories and there will be job losses, and that will tend to change the mindset of the people. So the people who were so long spending will now become savers for that year. And the impact of the banks on that will be, banks will be flooded with deposits, whereas there will be hardly any opportunity to deploy those funds. Okay.
Correct.
So that is number one.
This is the current situation. Exactly.
This is the current situation. So it is inevitable, and that will happen. This is number one. Number two, there are serious disruption in the cash flows. So the payment which was expected on 30 days may be available after 150 days. Payment which are expected in 90 days may be available after even 200 days for that, 180 days or 200 days for that year. And especially the overseas payments, which is in the regulations and control of the other country. There we also do not know when will these payments come. There are serious disruptions in the cash flows. So when there are serious disruptions in the cash flows, what will happen to your assets?
Yeah.
Has
Correct.
Reserve Bank of India changed the NPA norms?
No, sir.
There is no change in the NPA norms as such, but the thing
Yes,
is
sir.
that definitely the assets will be impaired to a
Degraded.
large extent. To a large extent. One side you are flooded with funds, liquidity. On the other side, there will be no new ventures if the economy is degrowing. There will be no new demand for credit. Number two. Number three, there will be job losses. And when there are job losses, people become more apprehensive. They will not spend. So the retail segment will also get affected. So this will be the sum of the effect or the adverse effect on the banks. So against these challenges, which we are all witnessing, how can we ensure growth? Yeah. Now tell me, what could be the solutions?
So that is only, sir. We are to new opportunities are coming. That there we need to little more focus. For example, I said just now pharmaceutical and other wherever there is a advantage, because this vaccination everything is India only supplying now for entire world. So there that particular opportunity I think we are explore. And for example, even hardware computers are a lot of demand in computers, a lot of demand in medicines, a lot of demand in exports of vaccination, other pharmaceutical related. And wherever there is an opportunity, I think we need to explore more there, sir.
Yeah, I
Sir,
agree.
I'm sure there is demand, sir, but how much are we going to deploy in pharmaceuticals and
Correct. That is why I told you earlier also that the companies that are in the production of vaccines or whatever you say, the pharmaceuticals are here, number one, they are all cash-rich. They are all very cash-rich companies. Has anyone seen Serum India borrowing? Pune Best, it is sitting with a cash of 3,000 crores. Similarly, Dr. Reddy's, all these are very cash-rich companies. We all say that pharmaceutical will grow, but opportunities of lending in this sector is not that much.
I think, sir, in present situation, one banker has to very prudent in lending and very selective. This is the only option available in present scenario.
And sir, another option as a banker, that where you are taking 100 crores of exposure, instead of that you go for a smaller ticket and diversify your money, so the risk will also get reduced.
See, again, just let me tell you again from the practical point of view for that year. If the economy is not growing or degrowing for that year, and whenever there is a contraction in economy for that year, if we squeeze our credit, then it will further degrow.
Correct.
It will tighten the process. What we do it during normal times for that year, if we apply all those things for that, I will not rate anything below investment grade rating. Okay. And I will not go for that year. Then again, either there will be credit growth nor there will be economic growth. So what is the first thing we should do as a banker? It's ideas, just exchange of ideas, nothing else.
And one more sector, what I'm feeling is agri sector. Agri is doing very well, and because of good monsoons, and that is one area we can look sir. And the second thing is government of.
Number one, I would say yes, fantastic. But the first thing is that the monsoon has given us an opportunity to lend in the agri sector.
Yes, sir.
We should be, I would say, profusely lending in this sector.
Yes, sir. And the second point I want to add is
all agro and agro-based industries. This does not require much of funds. These are seasonal and they require credit support. They cannot go to the alternate resources. They can't access a capital market or a mutual fund for that year. And this is one area where probably we have been a little bit conservative, and that is why we lost the market to the MFIs, isn't it? So now this is one area, either through coordination or through some strategic partnership, even if required, or through direct lending, support this sector. Very, very good. Very good. Number one. Number
Sir,
two.
sir, cluster approach in Atmanirbhar Bharat, sir. Cluster approach we go through the Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Now what approach I just can't get?
Cluster approach.
Cluster. Cluster approach in Atmanirbhar Bharat. Atmanirbhar Bharat has given definitely many opportunities to grow for that year. That is what I'm coming to the various skills. This is number one. Number two, how can we what are the opportunities now available or given by government or Reserve Bank of India that we can enforce? What are these?
Sir, another thing, we can go for term loan lending, sir. Instead of more of cash credit, we can increase term loan lending, sir.
Hey, but who will take term loans? Hardly there will be new projects, new ventures, new expansion, new modernization. People will become apprehensive. Let me tell you very fact. Even a company, you ask a company which are having huge cash. I think we attended one seminar which was addressed by Reliance CFO for that year. So even that they are sitting with a huge cash, they are saying that we are still now very conservative in investments, in greenfield investments for that year. And that is the approach with most the companies for that year.
Sir,
so term loans, you see, what could be the second? First, I fully agree. This is one sector, agriculture, we must only support because the monsoon is favorable. They demand the year, and if you support this sector, the economy will also turn around because this is the backbone of our economy. Number two, what can we do?
So government has already extended CGT SME coverage up to 2 crores. I feel that they should come with a guideline that a bank should not accept collateral at all for a limit up to 2 crores. This way, we can, get done away with the collateral part completely, sir.
Whether you are implementing at the ground level or not, that is a different.
But again, sir, we will have one reason less to reject a loan. That is collateral security.
No, it is already there for any CGTMSE.
Hybrid model is there, yeah.
No, you cannot just take collateral. That is guideline is always there. If we are not abiding by that guideline, that is a different story. That is not. But anyone can just from practical experience what we should do.
Sir, MSME sector is one of the opportunities.
Yeah, please.
MSME sector is one of the opportunities to invest in small scale industries up to 5 crores.
I agree and support that fully.
Yes.
That this is the second sector where we may not deploy large funds.
Yes,
like
sir.
road sector, power sector, we deploy 200, 300, 500 crores for the year. MSME, and which are almost guaranteed for that year, we can also fund. But that is again a challenge during this time. How many MSME will actually come up, or how many actual investors will set up an MSME industry? It is easy to say for that year, but it is very difficult to find. Let us see from the practical banking angle. We all say something in theory, something or in the various speeches and further. But when you come to the practical banking angle, all of your bankers, are you really receiving new MSME proposals?
No, sir.
Sir, before
Sir,
France,
can we look?
sir,
We are just transforming. It is not an overall credit growth. It is just some banks may grow at the cost of others. Let me tell you very clearly.
Yes,
So
sir,
some
before
retail segment,
functioning,
some banking.
Sir,
But
retail
what-
segment is showing growth now.
Just think that this is a period when I have told you, I have given you 2 points also, that the disruption of cash flows happened, the year happened for that. So what is the second thing we should do?
retail, sir. Retail segment, sir.
Like, get a hint to this point. I've told you that this is an area when the economy is growing.
Sir, we can fund those companies where cash flows are mismatched.
That is to be more precise, coming more. Your approach is going towards the answer. What is the term we use?
Bridge loan.
Additional funding, sir, to
Yeah,
our existing customers.
Someone said the right word. I think.
Shorter working capital.
Restructuring, sir. Restructuring.
Yes, restructuring.
Restructuring.
You see, the first, second most important thing to make a credit growth is that look at your own accounts. Please look at your own accounts. There are so many good accounts which were doing so well but have been adversely affected because of this COVID. There is a disruption, and there is a disruption in the cash flows. Please find out those accounts. There are huge numbers. Someone mic is open. Please, when you speak, then only you open the mic. Otherwise, there is a disturbance. Please mute your mics. I think Mr. Sudhir's mic is open. Someone else might the administrator might see. There is a
Ravita, can you see from our side?
Yes, sir, I'll just see and I'll mute the person.
Yeah, it's okay now. So second most option, the most thing to achieve this credit growth is that look at your own portfolio. Look at your own portfolio. There are many accounts where they need additional working capital because of this disruption of these cash flows. Number one, they also need probably a long-term working capital support, which can be in the form of term loan, which can be repaid over a period of time, and restructure all those accounts. Already RBI has issued the circular on COVID restructuring, whatever is there. So please restructure all these accounts, and all these restructuring up to a certain amount are guaranteed. So that's where the capital risk and the, I would say, NPA risk also is mitigated to a large extent. But again, restructuring is the second essential thing that you need to do at this moment. So definitely agriculture is one. Number two, restructuring of the account is one. What could be the third thing? What could be a third thing?
To increase the CASA.
No, CASA increase.
CASA may credit growth. How is it going? Increasing CASA will already we have so much of funds. See, HDFC Bank recently has bid in some government assets less than 6%. SBI is also very aggressive.
Yes, sir.
So there are already such a huge amount of liquidity in the system. We don't mind CASA, but of this CASA, only CA portion is very, I would say we will be happy. SA is also creating a lot of liability pressure on us.
Sir, retail segment, sir. Third segment, retail. Is it retail? Look for some retail.
Yeah,
Great.
So question is that definitely this sector is always open. This retail sector is always open and we can go for it. The thing is that if we want, again, I'm coming for the day to be more specific in the retail sector, what do you feel that actually is an indicator of the retail economy growing? What happens when you say, yes, the retail economy is growing or the retail sector is vibrant? What events indicate?
Sir, vehicle loan growth is growing at 16%.
Very good, very good, very good.
Yeah, yeah.
One is the vehicle loan and second is the?
Can we say consumer durable?
Personal loans.
Second is what?
Personal loans, sir.
Huh?
Personal loans, personal, PL.
Consumption demand, sir.
Consumption
demand, sir.
I am telling that what two events in the economy really indicate that yes, the retail sector is growing. What two events? What is the vehicle loan and what is the other loan?
Purchasing power.
Home loans. Housing loans.
Yes, absolutely correct. If there is a demand in the housing loan and if there is a demand in the vehicle loan, it clearly indicates that there are enough opportunities for us to grow in this area. All these things, you see the personal loans, clean loans or whatever you say, in SBI, the term it as express credit, all these are all the corollary. The first thing is that you will find that the demand for housing loan. Now, housing loan so far, again, I will just make some segmental, I would say, demarcation in this regard. One is the housing loan for investment purpose, and the second is that housing loan for the stay purpose, where actually the consumer wants to stay for that year. Now, the first segment is risky. Again, I'm telling. The first segment in this type is almost whether if you are going to invest in projects which just caters to the premium segment or others, definitely we can finance, but to what extent we have to see where there is people are coming for investments risky. But the second segment, which is more so called the affordable housing segment, the affordable housing loan for that year, that is a major for opportunity for us to lend. And once these projects get a boost, it will again have a cascading effect. The cement industry will get a boost. The iron and steel industry will get a boost. The paint industry will get a boost. The other consumer durables industry will get a boost. So this is the starting point, the originating point. So we must again go for all these affordable housing loan sectors and also for the vehicle sectors for that year. Regarding these clean loan advances, again, I'm telling we need to be selective, where again, if we are finding that yes, salaries, they are salary holders, they have not lost the jobs, and more or less, I would say the money is coming. You see, recently also government has also made a stipulus. All the central government employees are getting a short of a bonus through RuPay card, isn't it? Have you heard this scheme?
Yes, sir.
Announced by the central government, 10,000 rupees. Okay. And yesterday, they have also announced some one more bonus, I think, for all government employees. So these are some of the things which, that means these are the segments where we may find and bridge the gap. Suppose 10,000 he is going to buy a fridge, or he has planned to for that year, which is around 17, 18, 20,000, or buy something. He is getting 10,000 and a bonus of 40,000. So there is a gap of 50, 60,000. We should go and finance all. There's a huge opportunity in this segment. Once we fund these segments, the affordable housing segment, and when we fund these vehicle loans for that year, it will have a real cascading effect on the growth of the economy for that year. So this is another sector we must go on for funding for the year. What can be the next sector?
Even gold loan also we observed a lot of demand increase, sir.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Gold loan is a safe and secured advance, and there is a huge demand. Again, it is a short of a personal loan or a short of an agricultural loan. So we have already said that we should go for agricultural loan, whether it is form of a gold loan or whether it is a gold, even supporting the SHGs and all these things. This segment we must finance for that. So fourth, secondly, we have said that we will go for the restructuring of our existing portfolios. we should be, I would say, wherever you find a simple scope or I would say a small scope that this unit, which was doing well in pre-COVID areas, but as really the cash flow has got affected because of this COVID, please help them, please restructure, please give them the additional funding. That will help in the credit growth, that will help in the growth of the economy. Because these accounts are with you, these accounts, you know the promoters, these accounts has a track record, so we must support all out to save them. Okay. There are certain other schemes also government has announced, like this Pradhan Mantri Swanidhi. Again, I am telling you, please don't break your head for a 10,000 rupees becoming an NPA. This is a very, very unique scheme again for that year. I am finding these mindsets among the branch managers for that year. We have got so many things to do. We have got many things to do. Even the 10,000 rupees, if we are what we are giving to the state vendors for that year, this is fully guaranteed by the government. This is fully guaranteed. There is hardly any capital requirement on these loans, number one. Number two, automatically, if you tie up with the various BCs or the recovery agents and give them 1-2% commission also, I would say most of the loans we would be able to recover also. So third is that if this scheme is successful, again I'm telling, the street vendors, if they get these funds at cheaper rates and which they would be recycling again and again, this will change the economy of the country and will help in the growth of the economy. And also for us banks, it is not a colossal amount. We lose so much on financing a power sector, a road sector. We lose around 100 of crores in those accounts. If this 50-60 crores per bank is divided among 10,000, 20,000 borrowers, there is a real division of the money. There is a real division, and it will, I am telling you, let us not break our head that these accounts are going to become NPA. Please break your head on a 10 crore rupees loan, on a 50 crore rupees loan for the day, and disperse this amount for that year. This is a, I would say, a very, very good scheme for that year. Similarly, whoever is eligible for this GECL, government guaranteed account, this is also should all come and you should all support this. This will help in the credit growth and also help in the growth of the economy. The first thing the government has supported us is that providing 100% credit guarantee, which has never been before. So let us support all these things. And similarly, of course, in the side of the investments also, we will come. So that this is one area I would say that growth opportunities exist for that area. Apart from that, if you are getting greenfield projects, new projects, we must see and look and assess the risk. And I would say we should be a little bit cautious. We should be.
Can we go some exposure to self-help groups?
Sure, that's what I told. In the agri sector, whether it is form of gold loan or whether it is a form of SHG, we should all go.
Yes, it is.
We should all go for that. That is one sector we must finance. And MSME also, I have told you for that year, but if you get new startups, new industries, definitely we should go and finance for that year. And secondly, another scope is there for all of us is that in order to, I would say this is another very, very important scope for the credit growth. In order to revive the economy, the PSUs, the public sector units, okay, which are owned by the government, these are almost sovereign loans, they have been asked to invest. And many of these public sector units are now coming, okay, mostly in the oil sector or in the coal sector or the power sector, solar power sector. So many of these public sector units have many projects in hand, which are on the anvil. We all banks can go and finance them. Okay? Another important, I would say, area of credit growth area is funding good NBFCs. I know NBFCs have challenges, and after the DHFL and IIFL incidents, we are also very skeptical. But again, I'm telling you, with the present norms that have been designed by Reserve Bank of India, and also the present monitoring system by all sectors, the chances of these accounts seeing the fate of DHFC, DHFL or IIFL is, I think it is very now limited. It is very limited. It is now, most of these sectors will have to follow stringent norms. They have to give all the data, basic data to the Reserve Bank. And one thing you should look that all these NBFCs must be very transparent. They want no NBFC, if it says that I will not share this data with you, what I'm sharing with RBI, please refrain from those advances. That really comes as a challenge for them. We can also engage ourselves a lot with this sector, NBFC sector, but yes, definitely seeing our own risk appetite and up to a certain level. So if we just sum up all these points for that year, I think credit growth is possible, but definitely we cannot expect a growth of 20-25%. Again, all experts have already said that if it is 4%, 5% also for that year, it is, I would say it is a tremendous achievement for that, from all angles from that year. So we cannot just think of a 20% credit growth or 15-18% credit growth, because the GDP is contracting, the economy is gradually coming down. So we must accept that figure, and then only we should go with the credit growth, okay, for that year. And so a reasonable credit growth for all of us is possible in this COVID area also for that year. The second point I would now like to come about the profitability. Yeah, again, one question to you all. What do you think would be the profitability of the banks?
Definitely, definitely it will affect, because credit is coming down. Definitely profitability definitely affects on us. But same way, we are also reduced our deposit rates and SB rates, everything rates. I think a little bit it will be intact only, what I'm feeling is, but not because of credit, certain effect will be there, sir.
Any other view?
To control the cost, that is one.
Control the cost. Anyway, we always speak this term control, but to what extent is it possible? Nowadays, are we really very liberal in our costs? Okay, I do agree to control the cost. The first one, you said that we are also proportionately decreasing our deposits rates. So that is one for, okay.
Sir, only we can maintain.
I'd like to ask a very simple question. Do you think that profits of the bank would decrease or it would increase?
Sir?
Or will decrease?
Voice is breaking, sir.
Okay. Now can you hear?
Sir, I agree with you. Profitability of the bank badly affected, but it's true. We can change our policy. It's varies pressure on the operating profit of the bank, because yield on advances down, and the cost of deposit on retail is also down, but cost of CASA will remain the same, and operative expense will remain the same. Then main question is how to improve our productivity is only the provisioning management. We have to adopt proactive approach on these issues to maintain our provisioning.
So profitability will definitely be down, but SDFC Bank is an exception. Have to check how they are managing it.
Sir, profitability is mainly affected by provisions, sir.
Let me tell you.
How we control the NPS.
No, let me tell you that don't go by the figures as on September 2020, because we are getting the benefit of moratorium.
Yes.
So with the Supreme Court giving its verdict in the month of November, so I think that RBI will be back to its old circulars for that year. So then only we can know actually what is happening on our profits or on our balance. As someone has said that we should be making provisions. So once we make provisions, means there is less profits. It's as simple as that. It is as simple.
But sir, going restructuring in a mass scale, that will also reduce the profitability, as provision is also to be made on that accounts.
Absolutely correct. I have told you. No, there is one thing. You see, restructuring is NPA, but if you do the restructuring under the COVID circulars issued by RBI, you get the benefit of maintaining it as a standard asset. That is not making you NPA. If you follow up whatever has been stated or in those circular, then it will be remaining as a standard asset. So that will
Yes, sir,
not affect.
but after the expiry of that relaxation period which government has given,
If you
even after that, if we go for mass restructuring,
see, one thing is end the moratorium, and another thing is the restructuring the account under the COVID circulars issued by RBI. If you are restructuring an account, you will continue to get the benefit of a standard asset. There is no only 10% provision that what is required to be made that need to be made. So for that is, so that will not make it. So that is why I said that we should go for restructuring. Otherwise, restructuring, normal restructuring under any circular other than this COVID, it will immediately make your account NPA. But we should take the advantage of the COVID circulars. So just to, I think another 5-7 minutes are there. Just to sum up, one thing is very clear, everyone is agreeable. There will be an impact on the profits and profitability of the bank. To what extent we need to see. The bipartite is coming. The banks which have provided or made provisions for this bipartite settlement, I think they will be a little bit mitigated. Banks which have made less provisions or very minor, mere provisions on these bipartite settlement, or that they are going to get a hit. There is no doubt on it. Number one. Number two is that NPAs are going to rise. Even government has also accepted that NPA in the banking sector will be to the extent of 12 to 13% in respect in the 2020-21 for that year. So NPAs will be rising. So definitely there will be a pressure on provisions, and initial year it may be less, I would say, because it is all substandard and we will be getting a provision of 15% flat or something like that. But once it goes to the doubtful category, the question of security comes. So all unsecured becomes 100% to be provided. So there will be a huge increase in the provisions because many of these accounts of security would not be, I would say, to the extent of the outstandings. So definitely one thing is very clear, NPAs will rise. Number two is that the government is also trying to see that the interest rate, it is also a challenge to Reserve Bank of India, that interest rate should not rise again. You see, we have now come closer to the international interest rates. So far, I would say the distance is much there for that year, because we can't even compare to the rates what is being quoted in Europe or USA or Japan with the developed countries. But yes, with the developing countries, we have come to a reasonable rate of interest. The thing is that this interest rate is actually a factor of inflation, and inflation is increasing. So there will be a huge pressure on the interest rate, and only because of this higher inflation, the MPC during the last two meetings, they have kept the interest rate intact. But unlike in the period of Mr. Raghuram Rajan for that year, we used to actually either used to reduce it or used to increase it depending on the inflation for that year. So the thing is that there is a tremendous challenge also on the part of the government to maintain the inflation. But another challenge is that RBI will also not want that there will be an increase in the interest rate. And third challenge is that there is always a huge pressure, which was never seen before, to immediately transmit this rate to the borrowers. So earlier, although the repo rate, I remember once Mr. Raghuram Rajan made an open statement that while we are giving enough indications, banks are not listening to us for that year. And that has actually changed. And I know that now all banks are almost aligned to and try to quickly transmit these interest rates to the borrower. So even if there is a 50 basis point decrease in the repo rate, which everyone is expecting, that is one thing for that year. There will be again a tremendous pressure on our NIM, on our net interest margin. So if you look into all these things, let us admit that profitability and profits for that year will be a challenge. Banks which have grown, which are growing in credit, as I've told you, keeping all these factors, that means the growth is there, but because of the various provisions available and the RBI circulars, they are not making, they will not be required to make provisions. They will be probably in the profit zone for that year. But banks which do not have a very prudent credit decisions or for that year, or actually not going or taking the advantage of those circulars, they will be in problems. Let us be very, very clear. Even if you have seen the NPA rates of the various credit card companies, recently also SBI card has come out that their NPAs have gone up to 4%, which was never been there for that. So these are all indications that COVID is really affecting the profitability of the financial institutions and banks for that. But again, I'm telling you, to see that how much of the profit can be retained and to make it, I would say, at least with the existing level of profits, number one. Some of the banks have the advantage of making profits through selling their stake in their subsidiaries. Like SBI, you see that all their subsidiaries, they are more than the parent. They have become more than the parent. Their valuations are becoming real very good valuations. They can sell some of their stakes and increase the profitability of the bank, but that is not possible with all the banks for that year. So wherever this scope is there, banks will have to make sure that they can at least make some stake sales and make profits for that year. For other banks, we need to see that how fast we can sell our non-core assets. This is one. Number two, obviously, the brick and mortar branch openings will be kept in abeyance till the situations permit. So no new branches, no unnecessary overheads, that has to be seen. Recruitment also has to be seen, that how much we can really afford. If it should be not more than the number of persons retiring. So a proper balance there has to be made, because the people who are retiring are in a much higher salary zone than the persons who are joining the bank. So that thing also need to be seen, whether we can really add some profitable values. But the most important thing is that the recent announcements by the MPC for the last announcement has opened, I think, tremendous opportunities for the bank to book profit in the treasury field. Do you agree?
Yes.
I think your CEO is an expert in this area. He can guide you more for that year. But recently, I would say the OMOs of the SDLs, the state development loans for that year, this has given a tremendous opportunity, and all banks will be now become more active in the treasury market. And a large amount of the interest loss or the NPA loss can be compensated through this market. There is always a challenge that yes, making such investments and carries the risk of M2M, no doubt. Mark to market risks are there. But again, I'm saying that even if the chances of yields firming up, again, RBI is trying through these various OMOs and giving very strong signals, especially after the announcement of central government borrowings for that year, that they are trying to contain the yields, and they have been pretty successful to a large extent in this regard for that year. So banks need to be more active in the treasury operations, have to look for all opportunities in this field, have to take and make calls on very balanced decisions, that which securities to sell, which securities to purchase, and almost on daily basis, and through the forex operations also. This is one area that because of the new MPC, and especially after all these partial credit guarantees have been classified under the held to maturity segment, We don't carry the M2M risks. So these and also the 19% to 22% have been extended for a further period. And we expect that this will be probably extended for the next 1 year also. So these are some of the areas from the treasury market which we need to be very active and see that the profitability is ensured. Okay. So to sum up, I think I've already crossed my. It's a very interesting session.
Sir, I have a one question, sir. Sir, I have a one question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, what is your secret of success in IOB, where 18 months are loss making, you are turned down in March quarter, you turn into profit?
Let me tell you very frankly, I can't take the credit. It has been going on for years, and many of my predecessors have been doing so for that year. March quarter was done during my earlier predecessor for that year, but definitely it was a challenge. So June quarter we could maintain. Again, it was a challenge. It was not, I would say that it was very smooth going on for that year. So success is yet to come. We can only say that if we can continuously make profits for 7-8 quarters despite this COVID, and that is only reason I have not applied or made an appeal to RBI to move our bank out from PCA, because we also want to test what is the impact of COVID for that year. So definitely success is yet to come. But yes, we are trying to make our strategies. Whatever I have discussed, the same strategies we are trying to make in this bank. Let us see that what the future says.
I think, sir, your success was only because of prompt turnaround action plan which you implemented in that bank.
I just can't get you.
Hello? Sir, prompt turnaround action plan which you implemented, timely actions taken by you.
Oh, this turnaround plan is again very I would say it's not very complex. What we are now focusing on, because since we have got a huge amount of NPA, so our first focus is to unlock the capital. All these are locked in these NPAs. So we are definitely going for OTS, whatever is there. We are going for auction sales. So whatever the possible, we are again to whatever the extent and reasonable amount of money we can get back. So all these things are definitely there. That is our first priority, number one. Number two, we have slowed down, again I am telling you, on corporate credit. Other than those what I have said, we have slowed down for that year, because this is one area we need to build our skills. But because of PCA, since there was no recruitment for 5 years, so definitely new talents have not come in. So we have slowed down on taking very conscious decisions on these things for that year. Third, we are very active in the treasury. I would say our treasury is performing very well and giving us a lot of profits in this from the various operations. So this is another area we are looking into it. So and fourth is definitely all the cost cutting things for that year. Whatever the cost cutting, to whatever extent we are possible, we have already implemented. We are continuing with it, but it is not that at the cost of the business. It is not at the cost of the business. So wherever business costs are involved, we are going with it. But other costs where we are saying we are waiting for our good times. So that is the way we are just planning for that year. We hope that it will come. Definitely COVID has again put us to a new challenge. We also want to see what is the effect of COVID and what is the effect of all this restructuring that we need to check.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yes,
During the introductions I have told about you, you have changed the mindset of the frontline staff during your tenure as the Kolkata Chief General Manager of that circle, sir. Sir, I personally feel frontline staff is the most important in public sector banks as a service industry. What strategies you adopted to change the mindset?
We did it in a campaign mode. So we actually evolved one program called Srijan. So the tagline was never say no to a customer. So it was something that practice for that year, that why there is some peculiarities in our public sector banks compared to private sector banks.
Yes, sir.
In fact, if you have seen, we are all seniors, and when we joined the bank, the system here is to show your thumb towards the branch manager.
Yes, sir.
So anything is there, that is only because it is not that you are not willing to serve. It is only because you don't know the thing. So the thing is that people are so much limited only to the work given to them. So even if some customer comes and say that I am facing a problem in internet banking, now more problems come from the digital banking front, whether it is mobile banking, whether internet banking, whether ATM, whether all passbook kiosks, so all these things come. And if you go to a customer or for the frontline staff, he will just say that, okay, we please go for that. So what we did is that we made a training session. All staff were sent to the training centers, and we set up some videos with the actual life situations. What happens in a branch, and how do you feel if you are a customer? Suppose the same thing happens with you, how do you feel? So this is one case of sensitization. Number two, we created some resource persons in all regional offices. So 3-4 officers were identified, their mobile numbers were shared. And so if you face any problem and you are unable to handle it for the day, kindly, instead of saying no to the customer or showing the thumb to the branch manager, kindly make a call to that resource person and get the answer, what to be done, and inform the customer. So that was practiced, and to monitor this, what we do, we made incognito visits from our LHO. So a team of people were selected who were not known to the branch people. So they will simply go in the disguise of a customer and sit there for the branch from 2-3, and it was through a mobile app which was connected with my secretariat. They would give in the real-time feeling. So whenever I got the feeling from a branch, the message comes that there is a huge queue and the SWO counters, the single window counters were not enough. So immediately a call used to go from my secretariat that CGM is asking that why there is so huge crowd at the branch, why there is no additional SWO. So the branch manager used to get puzzled that how can the CGM come to know? So people were just thinking. So it created a matter of sensitization and a matter, I would say, more or less the people were gradually, they got acclimatized to all these things for that year. So the habit gradually changed. For that year. We wanted to bring a systemic change rather than change by posting of a particular person. Generally in public sector units, everyone will look for whether someone is not for that year. So that we tried, we changed for that. So it definitely gave results. As your CEO was telling that we became one of the laggard circles, we became the second best circle in the bank. So a lot many accolades, which definitely gives satisfaction, but it was due to the team.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, all of you, and wish you all a very, very cheerful and happy festive season. Enjoy it, but please stay safe and maintain all the protocols. We have to fight this pandemic, and definitely with all our efforts and with the blessings of the Almighty, we would come out of this situation. Okay, thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, Partha. It was the most interactive session, perhaps, in the history of AMP. It comes from the practical banker. I hope all the participants have been benefited, because if you need to be creative, you have to think differently. To think differently, you have to combine the skill, your experience with ideas. That is how and where this Leader Speak series has come in. We wanted to bring people like you to interact with the budding bankers, and not only bankers, people from the financial sector who will learn from the experience. Is not only the theory is important, it is also important to learn from the experiences directly. They have heard from you directly how to tackle this profitability part, how to tackle the credit risk, and credit risk going forward is going to be very, very important. So the IIBF, we have a module there, the credit module for the people to upgrade them. So
I just want to interrupt here. I always used to say one thing to my people wherever I interact, and today also I am repeating. You see, credit is something which has started as soon as human civilization became civilized. Or that it was previously in the barter form, and then when the currency was evolved, it was in the currency form for the day. So we all know that we have Sahukars, we have Poddars, we have VAs. So all this community was also developed. They were only in this field of giving credit. So it is nothing new, number one. Number two is that when we all joined the bank, I think most of us, especially who have joined in the up to say late 90s for that year, there was no NPA norms, you see, for that there was no standard assets, substandard assets, as that there were simple health codes. Number two, there was no CRA, there was no Basel 1, 2, 3. There was, and still I can tell you that we took credit decisions. And when I was posted as CGM of Kolkata Circle, as Chief General Manager of Kolkata Circle, I was amazed to receive calls from borrowers whom I have learned as a Scale 2 officer. And without all these things, without this Basel, without this is. So the basic tenets of credit, the 3 C's, remain the same. But as the things have become more complicated, as we have gone into globalization, as we have moved into liberalization, so our risk profile has also, I would say, need to be measured in a more structured way. So nothing, the present credit risk profile that, or the credit risks that are coming up and the various models that we use is just to measure. These were already there previously, but in an unstructured form. Now it is just in a more structured form and in a documented form to create a corporate history for that year. For example, even if today I leave the place, my successor will know that yes, this is the history of this credit, history of this corporate. This is the only thing that has changed place. Nothing has changed place for that year. So I would just request you all these things, that only one thing please do while you are in credit, that is apply your mind, which was earlier there also when the Sahukars did the credit, and also today also when we are bankers also do the credit. Okay.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, Ravita, I think if there are any questions is okay, otherwise
questions are over.
Questions are over. Yeah.
So I would now request Director Training Mehrotra ji to give vote of thanks.
Yeah. Respected CEO sir, and respected our guest of today, Mr. Parth Pratip Sen Gupta. Sir, as our CEO has said, I think today's session has been the one of the class session actually we have had so far in AMP, because you have deliberated on all the practical tips, and the style of deliberation, that was also marvelous, because you never said anything from your side. You brought everything from the mouths of the participants, and they were actually required to think over, motivated to speak, and most of the ideas have been contributed by them only. So this has been a wonderful actually learning for all of us as to how, and in a very short time, you have involved everybody in an online mode. That was also a challenge. So all these things actually are the learning points for us, number one. And number two, the approach part. What I am seeing actually, even in an environment which is looking so gloomy, and everybody is just thinking there are no opportunities, banks are going to suffer huge losses, and NPAs are going to rise, no growth is possible. You have actually given us a lot of hope, and so much of positive things you have deliberated, and people are having, I think, in their mind now a concrete, clear action plan as to what they can do and what they can't do. So I think nothing better can be than this session. And those two important subjects like growth and profitability, they are the only biting things as of now. And all the areas you have covered. So the first and foremost, I would like to thank you, sir, very much from my personal behalf as well as on behalf of the Institute, that at a very short notice you have accepted our invitation. And today being the festival, you were also busy, and still you actually made it to address our participants, and in such a lucid style with so much of valuable contents. So I don't have the words to thank you, sir, but we would like to have much more from you in the days to come. And being at the top of the institution, you are having all the practical ideas which a credit officer on the ground should have. And I think it's a good learning for all of us, sir. Thank you very much from our side, sir. And I thank our CEO, sir, also. He has made it possible at a very short notice. He only suggested me your name, and we got in touch with you, sir. And Ravita has managed it very nicely. Our participants deserve also thanks that they have actively participated and contributed valuable points into this. So thank you very much, sir, once again. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Partha. I wanted a practical banker to address the gathering. That is why I thought you are the best bet. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Partha. And thanks all the participants.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Sir, happy Dashera and happy Durga Puja, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
sir.
you, madam. Thank you, madam.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, madam.
Thank
And
you,
thanks
sir.
all the participants.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Now I would end the session, sir. Now, Murugesan, sir, actually, you wanted to say something?
No, madam. Thank you, madam.
Okay, fine. Thanks. Thanks.